would not take long to get them operational. Hoste asked whether the prototype was being developed as a bomber, a night fighter, or a photo-reconnaissance plane. Killshaw shrugged. He didn't know. Hoste said, "Such intelligence would be of significant use. You have access to the factory?" "No, but as an engineer I have contacts there." His voice dropped to an undertone. "Are you intending—" Hoste shook his head. "That's not in our remit. My business is to build a network of loyalists. This is a long game." They talked on for a while, mostly about the fifth column. Hoste assured him that, in the event of a successful invasion, those loyal to the fatherland would be already equipped with means of identification, papers or a discreet badge. By the end of their meeting, Killshaw evidently felt emboldened, for he now said, "Would there be any form of remuneration? For the risk, I mean." "Of course. Depending on the value of the intelligence, a stipend is possible. We are more than obliged. We want to reward our agents for their work." Hoste decided they should conclude there. It was important not to rush this sort of negotiation. It required stealth, a degree of nous. He knew well the danger of committing oneself too early, recruiter's remorse. He stared over the rim of his glass at the new man, and, feigning unconcern, said, "By the way, one more thing. Have you ever come across the name Marita Pardo?" Killshaw protruded his lip, repeated the name, and grimaced. "I'm afraid not." "No matter," Hoste said briskly. They both rose and stood facing one another across the table. He saw Killshaw tentatively lift his hand to shake on the deal. Hoste knew better than that. Straightening, he raised his forearm in a stiff salute. "Heil Hitler!" Killshaw, momentarily thrown, stole a glance at the door. The risk. When he saw the coast was clear, he mirrored Hoste's salute. "Heil Hitler!" "Hardly got a wink last night, they was making such a racket." Hoste was seated behind a couple of women on a bus bumping along to Waterloo. They were talking about the night's 5-hour raid by the Luftwaffe. "Yeah, I know. Between that and his nibs snoring his head off." There was a long pause before her companion replied, her tone more meditative than indignant. "This war, I can tell you, gives me the sick." The bus had halted, the road ahead a minefield of broken glass and debris. It stuttered forward again, steering around a huge crater. Hoste gazed out of the window. The city seemed to him like some creature woken from a terrible dream, stunned to find itself so bedraggled and bruised. As he stepped off the bus, the morning air stung his eyes with its bitterness. Greasy coils of black smoke and brick dust drifted off the bombed buildings about him. Around the corner, a shift in the usual perspective stopped him in his tracks. Sometimes, when deep fatigue set in, his dreams would start up their hallucinatory dance while he was still awake. He blinked. Sharply, this was no dream. One entire side of Medway House had disappeared, exposing a wall of mauve Victorian brick unseen in 60-odd years. A fire crew were just packing up, their hoses coiled like green intestines about the pavement. Hoste was still in his ARP uniform. He had been on duty all night himself, so he ducked beneath the rope and approached. His footsteps crunched over glass. He looked up at what remained of the block's scarred face. Every window had been blown out, like eyes made sightless. Another ARP warden had noticed him standing there. "Direct hit. Took that side clean off. They've only just put it out." "Casualties?" "4 dead, some injured. Most of them had gone to the shelter." Hoste continued to stare, apparently in a daze. The man looked at him again. "You know the place?" After a pause, he nodded. "I live here. Lived here." He wasn't looking at the man, but he caught his whistling intake of breath. "Sorry, it's bad luck." "Not really," said Hoste. "On another night I might have been in there." He began walking towards the wide front door, which was hanging off its hinges. Behind him he heard the man mutter a warning about its being unsafe, falling masonry, but Hoste ignored him. He stepped inside the ruined shell and looked around. A chaos of plaster and wood.